Welcome back, deep divers. Have you ever stopped to think about how art can, well, capture the soul of a nation? Especially during a time of massive change, like a rebirth.
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it?
Definitely. Today, we're taking a really captivating journey into a key moment in art history,
Right,
the Dutch Golden Age.
right.
This wasn't just, a period where lots of nice paintings were made. It was a time of huge transformation
Mm.
for the Netherlands, politically, socially, and their art really shows that journey in some amazing ways.
Indeed. And our mission for this deep dive, really, is to unpack how the art wasn't just beautiful, though it certainly was, but how it acted as this profound mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, reflecting a brand new nation's identity, its struggles for freedom, its victories. We're going to explore what made this art so different, dig a bit deeper than just the surface,
Okay.
and then zoom in on two absolute giants. Their work didn't just define the era, it still grabs us today.
What's really interesting, I think, is how everyday things, normal subjects, suddenly took on such huge meaning. Okay, let's get into that. Before we dive into the specific artists, maybe, how did Dutch art start to carve out its own path?
Yeah.
The Flemish school was so dominant for so long, right?
Yeah.
With all that incredible detail.
That's a really key point because it wasn't just a continuation, not exactly. Flemish art, as you say, was known for its extreme realism, meticulous detail capturing every tiny thing.
Yeah.
And Dutch art definitely kept that realism, that attention to detail. That was foundational. But it wasn't just a separate school copying the Flemish style. It changed. It evolved.
How so?
Well, it adapted those techniques, added new features, new approaches, and this was all driven by huge historical events happening in the Netherlands itself, things that really shaped the nation.
And this is where it gets really interesting for me. The Netherlands was just coming out of these long, hard wars with Spain. They finally got their independence officially in 1648.
A massive moment.
How did that newfound freedom, that whole shift in who they were as a nation, how did that show up in the art? Did it totally change what artists painted or what people wanted to buy?
Oh, absolutely. And it wasn't subtle. The real flourishing of Dutch art, you see it kick off after 1648, once independence was solid.
Right.
This political freedom brought huge changes in who was buying art and what themes were popular. You see less of the grand religious paintings, partly because of Protestantism taking hold.
Okay.
Instead, there's this big pivot towards, well, more secular stuff. A deep focus on nature, on everyday life, on the wealth coming from trade.
Portrait suit, right?
Portraiture became huge. And not just for kings or bishops. The new merchant class, city leaders, even, regular middle-class families wanted portraits to show their status, their family pride.
Makes sense.
But maybe the most symbolic shift was depicting the land and the sea. These weren't just pretty pictures. They were powerful symbols of being Dutch,
Oh, so symbols of what?
of independence, of resilience, of their skill in managing water, controlling the sea, and symbols of their growing trade empire across the globe. This amazing variety of subjects, quiet home scenes, big seascapes, busy cities that became a hallmark of the era. It reflected a nation that was really proud of its freedom, its unique identity.
So, stepping back a bit, what does knowing all this history mean for us today when we look at these paintings? Why is understanding that backdrop so important to really get the art?
It means that when you look at a Dutch Golden Age painting, you're not just seeing, a nice image. You're seeing a snapshot of a nation figuring itself out. You're seeing how people who fought for their freedom chose to celebrate their values. Hard work, civic life, family, their connection to the land and sea that literally made them who they were.
Right.
Without that context, you kind of miss the deeper layers, the quiet pride, the stories hidden in what might look like just a simple room or a landscape. It connects the art right back to the human story of building a nation, finding yourself.
Absolutely. And okay, when you talk Dutch Golden Age, there's one name that just jumps out immediately, Rembrandt van Rijn.
Can't avoid him.
He's called the master of light and shadow.
Yeah.
What was it about him? What made him so iconic that we're still talking about him centuries later?
Rembrandt's fame, it's just immense, isn't it? And it really comes down to his incredible ability to capture the soul, not just the face, of the people he painted.
Yeah.
He got famous through those amazing self-portraits, or almost like psychological diaries, and the really powerful, expressive portraits of other people.
But the light and shadow thing.
Exactly. What truly set him apart, what gave his work that unique depth and feeling, was his mastery of light and shadow. We call it chiaroscuro.
Right, chiaroscuro.
Basically, using strong contrast between light and dark across the whole painting to create drama, volume. He wasn't just lighting the scene. He was using light to guide your eye, reveal character, create emotion. He is, without doubt, one of the most famous artists ever, and for very good reason.
It's amazing how someone develops a style like that, so revolutionary. So, thinking about his early days, how did he build that visual language? Who influenced him?
His training was absolutely crucial for that signature style. Between 1620 and 1625, he spent 3 really important years training with Jacob van Swanenberg.
Okay.
And here's a fascinating detail. Swanenberg specifically taught him how to paint fire, but more importantly, how the light and shadows from that fire bounce onto things around it.
Ah, so focused.
Extremely focused, and that intense study of light sources, how they behave dynamically, that was key to how he used light and shadow so brilliantly later on. Then his second teacher, Peter Lastman, broadened things out.
How so?
Lastman taught him how to put together more complex scenes, especially historical or biblical ones. This gave Rembrandt's work that distinctive, almost theatrical feeling. His paintings often feel like a dramatic moment unfolding right in front of you. We can kind of break Rembrandt's career down into roughly 3 phases. First is the Leiden period, that's about 1625 to 1631.
Okay, early on.
Yeah, early days. His paintings were often smaller then, but packed with detail and meaning, sort of hinting at the psychological depth that would come later. This is when people started noticing him, really noticing his unique way with light and dark contrasts. A great example is Judas Repentant, Returning the Gold and Silver, from 1629. You can already see that intense emotion conveyed through light. Then he moves into his early Amsterdam period, roughly 1631 to 1636. He went into business with an art dealer, Hendrik Eilenberg, and focused a lot on portraits because, well, that's where the money was in Amsterdam.
Makes sense.
But his portraits just stood out. They had this energy, this spirit. His subjects felt alive, psychologically present, in a way that was different from other painters at the time. He also started doing bigger, more dramatic narrative paintings then, using myths and metaphors like his incredible Blinding of Samson. Very powerful stuff. And finally, there's his later Amsterdam period, say from about 1643 to 1658. This comes after he painted his most famous work, The Night Watch.
Ah, yes, the big one.
The very big one, which you can see today at the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, of course. In this later period, he often used looser brushwork, exploring the texture of paint itself, and the psychological depth in his portraits became even more intense.
So thinking about all that,
Yeah.
what's a really classic Rembrandt work that shows off his genius? And are there surprising details maybe we'd miss? Something about how it was made.
Oh, a perfect example, one that really brings together the art, the science, the whole social context, is the anatomy lesson of Dr. Nicholas Tulp. It's in the Mauritshuis in The Hague.
Okay, I know that one.
It's captivating, isn't it? Dr. Tulp dissecting an arm with all these city officials and surgeons from the guild watching. It's a group portrait, but he made it so dynamic. Most group portraits then were quite stiff, rows of faces.
Right.
Rembrandt turned it into this active, engaging scene. Everyone's reacting differently. And here's the fascinating bit. It really speaks to the times. Apparently, the men in the painting paid Rembrandt to be included.
Seriously, they paid to be in the painting.
Yeah, it wasn't just a commission from the guild. Individuals basically bought their spot in this iconic work. They wanted to be immortalized as part of this moment of scientific discovery and civic importance. Personal branding, 17th century style.
That's incredible. Art, science, commerce, all mixed together. It really shows how central art was to Dutch life then.
Yeah.
But okay, Rembrandt wasn't the only master defining the age. He nailed the human spirit, the drama of light. But let's switch gears to another artist who totally redefined landscapes. Jacob van Ruysdael.
Yes, Ruysdael. If Rembrandt captured the human soul, Ruysdael arguably captured the soul of the Dutch landscape itself.
He's seen as one of the top landscape painters of the era. What was unique about his approach?
Well, for starters, his sheer range was amazing. Art historians have actually cataloged about 30 different types of landscape themes from the Dutch Golden Age.
30. Wow.
30 distinct subjects. And Ruysdael, incredibly, painted pretty much most of them. Woodlands, seascapes, waterfalls, city views. His breadth was just phenomenal. And like Rembrandt, his career had different phases. His early Haarlem period, say 1646 to 1650, he was really focused on the countryside around Haarlem, the rural side of Holland.
Okay.
He was deeply studying nature woodlands, those typical Dutch sand dunes, the huge skies. He used more intense colors, richer pigments than many before him. It gave his paintings amazing precision. They say his leaves are so accurate.
You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, botanists can apparently still identify the exact trees today. A famous early painting is the sand dune. Huge dunes, trees, clouds, and this specific light hitting a sandy path, And what's mind-blowing is the scale over a meter wide, meter and a half tall, painted when he was just 17.
17, that's unbelievable talent.
Isn't it? Then comes his middle period, after about 1650. He took a trip to Germany, and after that, his work seemed sharper, clearer somehow. He painted loads of castles he saw in Germany, weaving them into the landscapes.
Yeah.
But maybe the biggest thing from this period, he was the first artist to really make watermills a major subject.
Watermills, like the things that grind grain.
Exactly. They were vital to Dutch life, for drainage, for industry. Ruysdael didn't just put them in the background, he made them the star again and again. Think of the watermill on the open canal. He also started doing these really impressive, dramatic sea and coastal scenes then, like Stormy Sea, capturing the power of nature. And then his late period. What really stands out here is the sky. The sky often dominates his later paintings.
Takes up most of the canvas.
Yeah, sometimes like 2/3 of the whole picture. It really emphasizes the vastness, the beauty of the natural world. And for the Dutch, maybe it spoke to their relationship with the elements, the weather, the sea that shaped their land. His painting looking towards Haarlem is a great example. The sky is just immense.
It's fascinating how he took specific things like watermills or just the sky and made them the main event. It really changed what people thought was important enough for art. So if our listeners want to see these masterpieces, where should they go?
Well, the good news is Ruysdael's work is all over the world. In major museums, you can find fantastic examples at the National Gallery in London, definitely the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. You have to go there for Dutch art.
Of course.
And actually, the Hermitage in St. Petersburg holds the largest single collection of his paintings. His influence spread far and wide.
So let's bring it all together. We've looked at how independence, trade, culture shifts all fed into the art of the Dutch Golden Age. What's the lasting impact of painters like Rembrandt and Ruysdael? Why do they still matter so much today?
Well, I think they perfectly show that era's unique mix of incredible realism, this new national pride, and real innovation. Rembrandt's portraits capturing the inner person, the spirit of this new civic society. Ruysdael turning landscapes into these grand, almost spiritual statements. It all reflects this vibrant, confident new world.
It wasn't just about making pretty pictures.
Not at all. It was documentation, celebration, deeply personal interpretation. They show that you could find the important stuff, the beautiful stuff, the heroic stuff, not just in old myths or religious stories, but in your own life, your own land, your own face. And why does it still resonate? I think it's because they captured not just what things look like, but what was felt, what was believed by people in a time of huge change. Their work tells these universal stories about being human, about resilience, finding beauty in the ordinary, about defining yourself. They invite us, even now, to look closer, find meaning in the details, appreciate the beauty around us.
You see, understanding this time, it isn't just our history homework. It's seeing how creativity can absolutely flourish when things change, and how artists can both show and even help shape a nation's identity. What really strikes you about seeing a country's freedom, its sense of self, painted so clearly onto canvas for everyone to see generations later? As we wrap up this deep dive, here's something to think about. If art really does reflect a people's hopes and struggles, capturing who they are, what masterpieces are being made today that will define our time for the future?
That's a big question.
It is. What common subjects or themes are popping up now that might look uniquely ours later on? Just like watermills and huge skies seem so quintessentially Dutch Golden Age. What story will our art tell? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the amazing art of the Dutch Golden Age. We really hope you feel a bit more informed and maybe, just maybe, a little more inspired to look at the art around you, old and new, with fresh eyes.
There's always more to discover, isn't there? And different viewpoints always add something new. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, let art keep challenging you.
Until next time, keep digging.